Welcome to another edition of Chicago Crossing Railcar Reviews. And today we are looking at this. It's an N-scale Greenbrier 7550 cubic foot, 60 foot boxcar by Aurora Miniatures. Now, Aurora Miniatures is not a company that I was really familiar with. They're based out of Toronto in Canada, so they share a Canadian lineage with other high-end manufacturers like Rapido. They also have a fairly limited line of models in N-scale. They look to be relatively new into this. This is this boxcar, and its variants seem to be the primary product that Aurora currently has in N. And this comes in at an MSRP of $39.99. Now, Aurora basically writes that this should be cutting-edge manufacturing technology to create accurate and quality products for the discerning hobbyist. So what we'll be able to see today is whether or not $39.99 as an MSRP buys you a model that qualifies as being a high level of quality. So we'll take a look at it, we'll weigh it, we'll compare it with some other models of similar boxcars from different manufacturers to see where this model falls in terms of the range of value. And then we'll get it onto the layout and run it around and see how it does. So just as a note as to what I'm reviewing here, this will be a BKTY 157652, that's the road number in GATX blue. And again, you can see the item number up there. All right, so unlike a lot of the models that I will get, this one does not come in a jewel case, rather it comes in a cardboard box. I think Broadway Limited does that as well. It means it's not quite so easy to stack this in my big old stack of rail cars inside of my leftmost cabinet, but at the same time, who knows, maybe you save on packaging. The one thing I think we're always concerned with is that packaging durable enough to prevent this model from being broken. It is said to be high quality. Always excited to open something up from a manufacturer that I don't really know well. You don't have a lot of basis for comparison, and it offers a chance to kind of expand beyond the usual manufacturers that we take a look at. So anyway, it's in a clamshell type case within the cardboard. And we'll just pop that open. It's got a little bit of tape there. Okay. So far, what I'm seeing are metal wheels. Got cut levers and some things like that. So here's the reveal. Man, that is a sweet looking boxcar. So first off, you know, the first impression always says everything. And this looks quite something. So what we have here is we have some very nice printing and overall nice coloring. This sort of stuff looks fairly flawless in terms of the quality. It does have the more contemporary road markings down here, the stripes or reflectivity stripes. In addition, it has, oh wow, this is kind of interesting. If you turn this a little bit to the side, a couple things you notice. Number one is these metal bars here that normally will lock the door, those are actually separately fitted detail parts. They are plastic, they are not wire. Also, even the mechanism over here in part is a separately fitted part. It looks like it works as part of this separately fitted object here. In addition to that, there's even over here these really tiny little detail parts that actually do appear to be separately fitted, because when this model is turned to the side, they do seem to kind of stick out. Either that or it's just good molding, but either way, I'm always happy about good molding. The data that you can see there looks quite nicely printed Over on the ends, you can again see the excess height car indication as well as the road number. Other side looks quite identical. And there are some really tiny decals. I'm going to have to take a zoom lens to that and see if I can actually pull that detail in for you. What's sort of interesting here is that the ladders here leading up from the stirrups are actually molded in place. It doesn't look like that detracts at all from the overall effect. I mean, those ladders tend not to come out too much, and that is pretty fine molding. You do have some nice molding of a handrail here, or a grab iron here, as well as these ladders over here. You do have a foot plate here that is actually etched metal. And you have a cut lever on one side, it looks to be, and an air hose. That air hose, however, is molded in blue. I don't believe that would be prototypical for a car such as this. The roof detailing is actually quite nice. In fact, if you turn the roof this way, you can actually see individual rivets in there. So yeah, this is a rivet counter model. You can probably count the rivets. Turning this thing to the underside, and you've got really nice detail. This sort of looks like kind of exact rail quality of detail on the bottom here. These look to be separately applied parts. There's quite a few of them. If you turn it this way, you can actually see a lot of three-dimensional components here that are actually holding the brake rigging in place. That is plastic. Happily, it ends where the wheels end. And you've got a reasonable amount of travel in the trucks here. So that's always helpful as well. We'll have to see how this performs on the layout. So yeah, real nice. Trucks also look pretty good here. Everything seems appropriately picked out. So not a bad model, to say the least. Last thing to note is these couplers. They appear to be proprietary. If you take a closer look at them, they kind of resemble like an Atlas coupler. They're small, so thankfully they're not bulky the way that Microtrain's couplers are. But generally speaking, yeah, this is a nice model. Obviously, it is fragile just based on seeing the thinness of some of this work on here. But as far as a kind of higher value box car, that's really not bad. Back with the scale, and we'll get this thing fired up here. So this is a 60-foot box car. It measures in at about 4.5 inches by NMRA standard. What that means is this thing should have a mass of about 1.175 ounces. That's, it is Canadian and all, but I guess we'll keep it, standard. And it exceeds that a bit. It's 1.4, so it's certainly not underweight, and that's not bad. I'd rather have a little bit of weightiness to these cars. I think it just helps with the performance overall. We'll check the free rollingness elsewise. So now let's compare it with some other models that are currently out on the market. All right, I've got set up a quartet of different box cars. As you'll notice, some are 60 foot, some are not. So what I've got for you is I've got the GATX Aurora Miniatures model here. The Canadian rivalry, be it as it may, this is a Rapido boxcar. This is a 50-foot model, but has a similar door configuration, at least as a single door. Another double door boxcar here. This is a weathered version of a Microtrains car. And then last and not least, we have an Atlas Masterline boxcar here as well. These two are not excess height, so they're not exactly directly comparable, but that does at least give a sense of, for a boxcar of a certain trim, what the manufacturer will actually include on there. Now, as an example here, this is, a boxcar that I've weathered, so no, it didn't come this way. This is essentially about as close as I think I can get to the same level of detail on a model. And what you can see here is it also has these similar vertical locking mechanism for the door. This car was weathered by me. It did not come weathered this way, but it did come essentially pre-faded, and it did come patched, which was kind of nice. The underside, which I did not weather during a quick run of this, also has, the same high level of detail in general, really nicely done. Likewise, body-mounted couplers, and also likewise a cut lever, no air hose on this one that I was able to see. One difference is this does actually have mounted separately fitted ladders on the ends, as well as a separately fitted handrail here. So at least in terms of what you might expect, this car has an MSRP of like $36.99. This one's $39.99. I'd say they're probably in about the same category. The Microtrains model that you see here, this is a factory weathered model. These are always a little bit more expensive, but what you can find from Microtrains ranges anywhere. It's actually kind of a big range, anywhere from between about $30.95 for, in some cases, even these weathered models, up to something like $50, which to me seems unappealing. As you see here, all the detail on this side is molded in. There's not a lot of detail down here, like stirrups and things like that, except for these very nicely molded stirrups down here, which almost they're plastic, but they're much finer than what you see on most models. You do have molded in stirrups or grab irons there. And then, much like the Rapido model, you have separately fitted ladders over here, as well as a separately fitted handrail up on top. Big difference here, of course, is when you look at the underside, you do have separately fitted detail, which is quite nice, but you don't have body-mounted couplers. They are truck-mounted couplers and plastic wheels as opposed to metal. So it's a real trade-off with Microtrains. Certainly if there's a rail car that costs $50 in this level of trim, I don't know. That starts to push it in terms of value relative to something like this. But, if you want a specific road and it's not over here in the relatively limited selection that Aurora offers you, then yeah, you're going to have to go elsewhere. The last one to simply examine is something like this. This is an Atlas Masterline car, and much like the Microtrains, you do have just molded detail here rather than separately fitted components. And then, of course, you also do have the etched footplate, very similarly to what both the Rapido and the Aurora models have. Again, this is a custom weathered version of this car. It did not come this way, but it did come with that patchwork that you see there already in place. So, MSRP for a Masterline Boxcar from Atlas, usually around $40 or so. I would say probably, and that's for maybe a larger boxcar than this. I'd say, these two are pretty good deals. This one depends on whether it's a pretty good deal because, again, you're not getting some of the same features. This one, you're getting many of the same features in the master line, and that's great. So just kind of depends. But again, there's a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison with these non-high cube or excess height cars, but at least it gives a way to sort of see what different manufacturers are offering in terms of features and how much bang you get for your buck. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get this thing onto the railroad and see how it does. All right, we've got it onto the track here. This is our GATX boxcar. And, looks pretty good. It's a detailed model. I think it seems right at home right here on Chicago Crossing. Let's go ahead and just kind of give the thing a little push and see. I was having problems keeping it still over on the desk over there. So as you can tell, it actually is a pretty free rolling car. So that's really nice. That's in contrast to the Tangent model that I reviewed, where it more or less was kind of a stick in the mud when you roll it like this. So yeah, real nice. And today we're going to audition this with Norfolk Southern 7107 to go serve the bakery over on the south side. Key question here is, how about these couplers? Does this actually engage? This is a Fox Valley model locomotive, and so for that reason it's got Microtrain standard couplers. So since that's kind of the industry standard, let's go ahead and see how we actually do here. Those kind of go together like oil and water, it seems. You know, normally you would at least maybe see the knuckles kind of, you know, get close to engaging, or at least sit there without necessarily actuating. Over here, not so much. Those look actually a little bit tiny and maybe a little bit stubborn. See if we can get those together. Yeah, you just have to kind of push them together and they go, but yeah, it's not gonna be an automatic fit. One thing I will say about those couplers is they are certainly smaller and more to scale than the Microtrain ones, and so they do look more realistic. That is a plus or a minus depending on your attitude about couplers. But let's go ahead and get this thing around the layout and see how it does.